Hello, good morning everybody. We're on our way to Niles Canyon in Fremont, California, the birthplace of some of the most iconic silent films in the United States. So ever since I got the iPhone 17 Pro Max, I've been watching a ton of YouTube videos where creators are making amazing videos using their phone. And when I compare it to my own footage, I feel like my footage is jittery, overly sharpened, and it just lacks that cinematic magic. The first order of the day is to get a good cup of coffee. Number 2, check out the Essanay Silent Film Museum. And 3, we're gonna check out some of the new tools that Sandmarc sent to me for review. I almost missed that turn. It's cold outside, but it's gonna be a wonderful day. Let's go. The first thing I had to understand was motion blur, and why my footage looks so sharp and choppy instead of smooth like the movies. Taking a quick tour.
See, this was brought over ways off. That was the end of hand cranking, because talkies had to be filmed at exactly 24 frames per second.
When something moves in real life, our eyes don't see it perfectly sharp all the time. There's a little blurriness in motion. And to illustrate this, here's an example. On the left, everything is frozen sharp, and this is shot with a high shutter speed. It's great for photos, but in videos, it makes movement feel unnatural. On the right, this is shot following the 180-degree shutter rule, and the motion feels more like what we see in real life, kind of like what we used to see in movies. Let's go check out the theater. Now that we know how important motion blur is, how do we get that look on our phone? The 180-degree shutter rule just means that your shutter speed should always double your frame rate. So, if you're shooting 24 frames per second, set your shutter speed to 1/48, 30 frames per second, set it at 1/60th. There's also a thing called shutter angle, which you can leverage in the Blackmagic camera app. It sounds simple, right? So why can't our phone just do it already?
Slides like this were used a lot in the old Nickelodeons, because usually they had one projector over the port that was set up to automatically shut if there was a fire so the flames wouldn't spread to the theater.
Well, let's talk about the exposure triangle. Generally speaking, in filmmaking, exposure is controlled by 3 things: aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. Now on a traditional camera like this, you can control all 3 pretty easily. But on most phones, aperture is fixed, which means the only 2 things that the phone can control is ISO and shutter speed. In general, our phones are programmed to keep ISO as low as possible because that will give you the cleanest image with the least amount of digital noise. But when there's too much light hitting the sensor, the phone will just crank up the shutter speed to compensate. Next question is, how do we control that shutter speed to achieve that cinematic look? The answer is ND filters. ND filters are basically sunglasses for your camera. They reduce the amount of light hitting your sensor, so you will have full control over your shutter speed. Check this out. These are the Sandmarc hybrid polarizing ND filters. They combine a neutral density filter with a polarizer to control light and also reduce reflections. So these Sandmarc filters come in a set of 3s. Comes in an ND16, which is great for bright but softer light, ND32, which is my go-to for everyday use, and ND64 is great if it's super bright outside, like midday sun, if you're high in the mountain somewhere. ND64 is gonna be the way to go. These polarizing ND filters will work with the anamorphic lens adapter as well. All you have to do is screw it on, just like this. You can pretty much use these filters on any phones, Android or iPhones, using the included mounting clip. Here's the thing, if you're already investing money onto a set of ND filters like these ones, you might as well get that dedicated phone case so that you can securely mount these ND filters onto your phone. If you're too lazy to carry 3 filters, you can also pick a variable ND filters on Sandmarc's website. They sell that too. And the variable ND filter makes adjusting your exposure super easy. We talked about all the hardware, but let's talk about how to actually set your shutter speed. In order to do that, you need to leverage a third-party app by Blackmagic Camera. You can also check out the Final Cut camera app, which is a little bit simpler without all the bells and whistles. First thing first, mount the ND filter onto your camera, then go under settings and set your frame rate to 24 frames per second, shutter speed 1/48, or if you want to be all fancy, you can set your shutter to shutter angle and set it to 180 degrees. If you're changing your frame rates a lot, shutter angle is just going to automatically set that shutter speed for you. You don't have to worry about manually adjusting the shutter speed constantly based on your frame rate. Alright, aperture is already set, frame rate 24 frames per second, shutter angle 180 degrees or 1/48, and the last piece of the puzzle is ISO, which you'll be adjusting manually to control your exposure. And also consider locking down your white balance or using manual white balancing. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons after testing out these filters. The build quality feels solid, and the glass quality is great as well. The image stays clean and sharp. The color stays consistent even when I'm switching between filters. And there are no weird patterns or artifacts because of the polarization. So 2 thumbs up there. The downside is that the polarization is not the strongest that I've used. It will help cut down the glare, but it's not going to cut out the reflections completely. The included mounting clip can be finicky, and if the filter isn't centered correctly, you can see the rim creep into the frame. So I recommend you getting the dedicated phone case if you're serious about filmmaking. Alright guys, we just got done checking out the Niles Essanay Silent Film Museum. This place is so cool. There's so much history in Fremont, Charlie Chaplin, Bronco Billy's, all those silent film eras predates my understanding of film. And I highly recommend you guys coming here to check it out yourself. In the next video, I'll show you how I stabilize my handheld iPhone footage without using a tripod or a gimbal. So if your New Year's resolution is to start filmmaking using your iPhone, subscribe. This way we can all learn together and share tips and tricks. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.